All right, welcome everyone. Hello, that's Debbie there. I'm Gary.
Hi.
I'm Gary. That other panel there, that's Kim Young. Wave your hand, Kim. Kim is a one-camera setup today, so we're not going to see her face. But I saw her earlier. She's all showered and fixed up, so she's good to go. And Kim is at an angle because her arm stretcher device, so she could reach around the canvas. That's in the mail, so hers is at an angle. There, but mobile, so you can see it's mobile. All right. So glad Debbie could make time today to take us through. Now the goal is today is to get us through the double fan doubled in the center there. Two colors. Get everybody going. I hope that folks who are participating were able to do the scotch-stitch square as Kim has it up there. I still have to braid mine. Did you braid yours, Kim?
No, I did not get that far.
Yeah, coming up.
Oh,
Coming
come
up.
on. Y'all didn't do your homework.
This afternoon.
I did mine last night.
My dog ate mine.
Oh.
Okay. Okay. So
And I thought of something while I was doing this last night. And when when I was doing the weaving, one thing that I've been told is helpful, I didn't do this, is to go through with the eye of the needle first instead of the point of the needle first. Some people may find that easier to do. What I found the simplest is to push up from underneath the canvas or to have a little bit of slack in the canvas so that it's not quite as tight. And then to take the needle, I'm going to go to my camera and see if I can show you
okay,
what
I'll
I'm
just
talking
go.
about.
So you won't see us the rest of the way. You'll just see Debbie and her canvas. So there we go. Okay.
Okay, so what I did was I took my needle as I was weaving through this here, and I went at the edge instead of trying to go through the center. It was a lot simpler to go through to find my way through the edges than at the center. Does that make sense?
So use the edge as a way to separate the three strands from each other.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. And if you want to leave that step out, you certainly can. It's your project, and you don't have to do it if you don't want to. But I like the little bit of sparkle that shows, the little bit of pink that shows through there. So that's why I included it in the design.
Okay. All right, now, and just a reminder, I see some people are not doing the project, but are here to learn. If we entice you, Kim can fix you up with a kit right away, so just let her know, and she can get one out to you if we entice you through this show to do the project. But otherwise, glad you're here to learn, and yeah, you'll pick up some tips like you just did. So we're going to work on the double fan double. Now, there are other areas in the chart that people will need help on, and we'll come back with other shows in the future to help you with that. We want everybody to get help, and as Debbie has said numerous times, her email address is on the chart, and you are more than welcome to write to her, and she will be more than happy to help you out. So don't get frustrated at any point. There's plenty of help all the way around, and we'll be talking about it on the various shows coming up too. So plenty of help to get you over any rough spots that you encounter. And I mean, the instructions are very clear, but understand that some people might get a little hung up here and there. There's plenty of help. Write to Debbie, listen on the shows, send me a question. We'll get you help. You don't have to get frustrated. So I think with all of that, I'm just going to say, Debbie, have at it, and I'll get out of the way.
Okay. Well, we're going to jump into the double fan doubled, and I'm going to start. In the instructions on page 4, there's a thread table at the top of the page, and I'm going to start with the threads listed in the order that they are. So that's going to be the dark lavender first. That's this dark purple. Everybody see that? And silk lame braid is a relatively loosely twisted weave. It will separate. Oh, I had a piece already. I wonder if this piece will be long enough. Let me see. Nope, not quite. So I'm just going to put this aside. I use my stretcher bars as a measuring device. So if you're on 18-inch bars, if you go twice the length of the bars, that's a yard. And so that's a good hint. You don't have to get out a tape measure. You don't have to have a ruler or anything like that. Okay, that should be enough. I'm going to cut this. And I'm going to anchor with a pin stitch close to the center. It's going to be all covered up by the double fan doubled, and a pin stitch is going to provide a nice firm anchor. So I have a pin here for the center. I'm going to take this out for just a second. And I'm going to go ahead and anchor both of the threads that I'm planning to use. And my pin stitch that I'm making is just going to be 3 times over the same canvas thread. I do this from the front. I find it easier and faster to stitch if I don't have to turn my canvas over.
Okay, Debbie, let's see. I have a question about the weaving in the diagram. It looks like you start and stop in the same hole.
I got to looking at that last night when I was working on it, and I thought, okay, well, that was dumb. What I did was I skipped every other hole. I reversed the direction. So I did, or skipped every other one. So I did this one, and then I did this one, and then I did this one. Then I came back and did this one and this one. And so I did that across the top. And then coming down the side, I thought, well, maybe there's a better way to do this. And so I did this one, then I came from this direction and went into here. And then I came this direction, and then I alternated it like that. Any thread carries are going to be completely hidden by the Scotch stitches. Does that make sense?
Okay, let's see. Carol Mullen, can we, Debbie, get closer to her mic? Can you hear her okay? She's pretty loud to me. Carol, let us know if that's improved for you. Let's see. Okay, that's it. We're up and running. Go ahead.
Let me see if I can increase the volume on this. I'm using earbuds instead of the headset that I normally use because, let's see if I can increase that a little bit.
Now, this is a dumb guy question while you're monkeying with that, Debbie.
Okay.
I just blindly anchored. I did my pin stitch more toward the outside, and you're doing it more toward the middle. The coverage is going to be good enough that you won't see mine, or should I shift mine to the middle?
You might not see it, but when the double fan doubled, okay, so I'm going to, let me just snip this off so I don't lose track.
You just answered my question when you flinched. I'm moving mine.
Okay. So
Okay.
I've got the model right here. Okay, so can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna see if I can hold it level. So it looks like even if you're out toward the edge more, it will be covered up, but can you see this little bit of separation right here?
Yep.
If it got into that channel, then it might not be covered up.
I'm moving.
There are no dumb questions.
You answered my question before you answered it, so that's all right.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring my needle up where I'm going to need it for the first stitch, which is going to be right here. And I'm just going to park it while I anchor the other color. It's easier for me to anchor both colors at the same time, and that way I don't have to. Once I get this needle placed in the center, I have been known to pull it out while I was trying to anchor the thread. So it's easier to anchor it if I don't have it there.
And for those who were wondering how long of a thread, it says right in the instructions 54 inches. I always cut mine an inch longer than that, just so things like where I decide to move the pin stitch that I don't have to recut, or I'm not going to be short. It's
Yeah, and
called
if you
covering your butt.
yeah, well, and if you're ever concerned that a pin stitch is going to work itself loose, if you've ever had to remove one, you know it won't.
Yep.
I meant to ask you, Gary, I didn't have a chance to watch on Friday when you had the Japanese embroidery
Yes.
instructor
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
person
Deb.
on. Did she say anything about pin stitches and not turning your canvas?
No, but
Okay.
she's with us right now. I don't know. Yeah. She did not say that Japanese people make fun of you if you turn your canvas. She did not mention that.
Well, that's what I was told by Shape and Dre. So,
Well, that's a pretty good source.
yeah, that's what I would think. Okay, and I'm going to bring this up where I'm going to need it. Oop, just right here. I've got so much equipment hanging over my canvas right now. Okay, so that's done. Okay, now I'm going to put my needle right in the center. And when I find the center, what I do is I count the scotch stitches. There's 6, so there should be 6 on each side. So if I trace with my needle down from the center, 3 on this side, 3 on this side. Try not to get my head in the way. Okay, that's right in the center. And this needle is not going to stay for very long. This is a size 18 needle, and I use a size 18 because it won't fall through the canvas like a size 22 would. And it doesn't make a huge hole, which doesn't make all that much difference because it's going to be completely covered. If you don't have a large needle, you could use a counting pin. Be careful of the head. Be careful of the clasp underneath if you have one of those. Or you could even use a toothpick. Okay, so now I'm going to do the first stitches. And
So Kim, that twig you got out in the yard, that's probably going to be a little big. That's just a tip.
I actually took somebody on your site recommended an earring, and so I found a little earring and used that.
yeah, earring would work.
So far,
And yeah, well, and the thing is, it's not going to be there for very long. It's just to control the tension of the first few stitches and to make sure that the center is centered. Okay, so this is position 1, and I'm going to position 2, but on the way, I'm going to go around this center pin. And now I'm going to come up on this side. This is position 3. I'm making sure I didn't catch on the needle underneath. And I'm going to position 4, which is right here. But on the way, I'm going to go around the needle on this side, and I'm going to go over this thread and under this thread. So over and under, that's the important thing to remember. Everything's going to be over and under. Okay, so there's position 4. If you don't slide under this thread, then when you remove the pin, everything's going to go like that. I've seen it happen. And you don't want that. Okay, so this is where I'm going to need this next, which is going to be right beside where I came up to begin this. Okay, now I'm going to pick up the second thread, and I'm going to it just lays on top. See if I can get this out of the way so I can find the hole at the corner is left empty. Okay, so this is the base for the second double fan. I just want to make sure I'm not caught there, okay? And I'm going to go over just this light purple and under just this light purple. I'm not doing anything with the dark purple at this point because this is the base for the second double fan. Okay. Now I'm going to bring the needle up where I'm going to need this next, which is going to be right here. I always bring the needle up where I'm going to need it next because it's better to park your thread on top of the canvas than underneath the canvas. I've heard it said that if you leave it underneath the canvas, it wanders around and gets in trouble like a teenager. You always have to have your eye on a teenager. And so if you park your thread on top of the canvas, you'll have your eye on that thread and it won't get tangled up. You won't have to unstitch it. And now I can just pick this up and I'm ready to go. Okay, so now all the stitches that start on this side end up here. But to get there, we're going to go over the first thread, under the second thread, over the first thread, the third thread, under the fourth thread. And then the needle goes down. And now I have 2 dark purple endpoints on this side. So I need to get 2 dark purple endpoints on this side. So I'm going to bring the needle up. I'm going to go over both of the dark purple, under the light purple, over the light purple, under both of the dark purple. You don't try to separate out the threads. You treat them as a group and not as individuals. Okay, now that's all. I've got the same number of endpoints with the dark purple on at the top and the bottom. I'm going to bring the needle up. Pick up the light purple. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go over, under, over, under, and down. I don't have my head directly over my canvas, and I want to make sure I don't get my head in the camera shot. So I'm moving things aside with my finger just so I can see them better. Okay, and now I'm going to go over, under, over, under. And it goes down. Now I have the same number of endpoints with both colors on all 4 sides. So I'm going to bring the needle up where I'm going to need it next. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this center pin out because I don't need it at this point. Okay, that's all there is to it. Now I'm just going to continue doing that until I have filled up all the sides.
There is actually a flow to this, Debbie. I mean, I feel the flow. It's hard for me to put it into words, but it does make sense how the needle moves once you get those groupings down.
Yeah, and it's a very logical stitch. It does make a lot of sense. And you can stitch it quite quickly if you get out of the diagram and aren't so focused on what number stitch was I on. And just look at the canvas, and the canvas will tell you where the needle goes over and under. That's what I tell my classes all the time. Gary, you'll tell me if my head gets in the camera shot, won't you?
Yep.
Okay.
So far, you're safe. Let's see. Deb DeCrane says, the Japanese embroidery people, we don't move the frame. We do pin stitches to end on the top side and cut the thread flush. The other threads cover it. And actually pin heads to start as well. And yeah, so, yep, so they are.
That's what I've been doing too.
Okay, Kelly asking if you can slow down a little bit. So maybe.
Well, I will try. Is there a specific question that Kelly had?
She just asked if you can slow down. Somebody says the focus is a little fuzzy. A lot of that is just canvas being moved up and down. Let me back out a little bit.
So Debbie, am I right to say that when you are taking your thread to the next starting point, so when you've done the 2 sides of the stitch and you're just bringing your thread up to park it, you're never traveling across the back. You're always just going up the side, right?
You're always just going up the side. And I've got enough on the canvas now to point something out. You'll see that all of the dark purple has a vertical orientation. All of the light purple is a horizontal orientation. So that means that all of my endpoints for the purple are going to be along this side and this side. And all of my endpoints for the lavender are going to be along this side and this side. Does that make sense?
Yes. Debbie, is it possible that your camera could get a little closer? Or are you locked in there?
We're pretty well locked
Okay,
in.
that's all right. Because I can't zoom anymore,
Yeah.
so that's all right.
The
Let's try this. There's a couple people here looking for a slowdown. Let's try this. I'm going to flip to mine, and then you guide me through because I have yet to do one stitch. So
okay, you do that, and I could lower my camera just
all right,
a
but
little bit.
why don't you be the voice, and I will follow your instructions, and then people can see it again from scratch.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Oh, that's not. You don't want to see that.
So can I ask a question then while you guys just get set up for that? So I feel like, Debbie, once you get the little groupings in place, you're really going kind of in an over, under.
Yes.
Okay.
And you can pull your pin at this point if you want
Well,
to.
you know, I would have done it earlier, but for that scary thing that you said, you've seen people do it. And fall apart. I'm going to do it now live, and we'll just see what happens here.
Well, wouldn't you rather have it fall apart if it's going to fall apart?
Yeah, but not in
now?
front of like 500 people.
Oh, why not?
All right. Mine stayed. I got it. So
Yeah, and it looks great. You have a nice tight center. And you can, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can really tell where the needle needs to go over and under around the center, right?
yeah, I can now. Yeah. I mean, the first couple of threads was a little bit hard because you didn't have the groupings, but once you've got
Right.
those little groupings, it's just like a little river flowing. It's over, under, you know, and it's
Yeah.
really kind of a beautiful stitch too, seeing it come together.
Oh, it is a fabulous stitch. It's really pretty. And I've done it with 4 colors. I've done it alternating every other stitch with a metallic. I've done it lots of different ways, and I like it every way I've done it.
Okay, so I think we got me showing up here. So I'm up at 1. I'm gonna just simply go around.
I can't see it, Gary.
Well, all right. Let me just try it. All right. I'm just gonna go around. Whoops. All right, toothpick in the middle because the needle won't stay. So I'm going to go around, just around the toothpick
Right.
like that to number 2 and down at 2. And then I'm going to come up at 3. All right. And you can see the flow already. So I'm going across. We don't go across the space at all. I'm going along the edge of the scotch stitch.
Yes, and you're sharing holes with the scotch stitches.
Right. And so then I just come back now on top of my first thing and then under the second one. So I'll move the toothpick out of the way if I can. Like that. So I'm going under the second one. So I'm over the first one, under the second one.
And the needle goes down.
So I went here and here, and then I went across in the back, and then I came up here, and I went over this one, and then under actually what was the first piece of thread on its way to the post. I went underneath that, and now I'm coming down over here on this side.
Yes.
And then that gives me my first X.
Yes, it should look like an X.
Right. So now I have that. Okay? Is that helping people?
Let's see if I can lower my camera a little bit.
See, my focus is much better. I can see on the pin in the middle and can see the holes better. Okay, well, all right, good. So we win for that. Okay. All right, so that's the first one. All right, and then all right, and then now when I get done with the fourth, so I've made this X. So I made this X, and then I don't want to leave that thread underneath there.
No, because it'll get tangled.
Right.
They have a little party back there.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They get in a lot of trouble.
So I want to bring that up just anywhere.
Bring it up where you need it next.
Right. Well, that's
Okay,
not where, that's not where I brought it up. So okay.
Okay.
All right. That's all right. Here, I'll get it. I'll get it.
I was just going to point out, if you bring it up where you're going to need it next, then you don't have to unstitch anything to start your
Right.
next stitch.
Right.
And so all of the stitches, the half around, or the over, under, and down, all of that with this color, with the first color, is going to start along the bottom edge.
Right.
In adjacent holes to where you first brought the needle up.
Right.
So all of this color is going to start right here. You're going to go from the bottom to the top, across the top, from the top to the bottom, then across the bottom, and bring the needle up to start
Right.
the next
Okay.
half
So
around when you're ready for it.
all right. So let me lead the people through it here then. So I went around the pin here to here. I went underneath on the back side along the Scotch stitch to here. I came here. I went over, and then I went under my first stitch and came over here. And now the next time I use the dark, it's going to come up at this hole over here. So I'm going to go along the back side of the Scotch stitch and come up over here. So
Yes.
my dark purple has moved across on the back, across the top, and across the bottom.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and then I set that aside. And now I'm going to go to the light color. And then the light color is up at what is hole 5. And then I'm going to go around the pin and down at 6. So you can
Right.
see, you start to see, like Kim was saying, the pattern that ensues here is, it's pretty, so I'm going to go around here. I know you can't see it, Debbie, that's why I'm describing it.
That's okay.
So around the pin here, all right, whoops. And it has to, if the pin stays in the hole, it helps.
It does. If it comes out, don't try to reinsert it.
She said.
Well, because especially with the silk lame braid, you'll separate the strands
Right.
of the braid, and it won't work well. And so when I first started doing double fan doubles, I never made them around a pin or anything. I just did it by
Yeah.
eye. And so you can still do that if it comes out. It's not a disaster,
No, that's
and you
all
don't
right.
have to unstitch everything and start it again.
That's all right. Okay, I got it. All right, pin's staying out because I'm not going to mess with that. So then
Okay.
now I'm going along the right side vertical of the Scotch stitch and
Yes.
coming up at the hole next to the dark purple.
Yes,
All right.
adjacent diagonally.
Right. Yes. And
Leaving the
then,
corner empty.
yes, and it is empty.
Okay.
I'm successful.
Okay, good.
All right, and then I'm going to go now over that first purple stitch, the first dark stitch. No.
You go over, okay, just ignore the dark purple like it's not even on the
Yep,
canvas
okay.
yet. Okay, just ignore it. It's not even there. So you're going to go over the first lavender stitch and under the second lavender stitch.
No, wait a minute. I'm screwed up because my post came out, so my my first stitch with the light color is now. So I got, hang on.
Wandering around.
Well, no, it's just nice straight stitch at the bottom. So I got to go over and under, and that'll pull it back.
Yes.
To the
and
center.
You can kind of adjust it to make it lay
Right.
right over the center.
This will be special. This will teach you to keep the post in the hole. Right here, because I'm going to earn my keep. Because you want these to be right over each other.
Right.
I don't know if you saw what I was doing, Debbie, if you could see
I
me.
did.
I skipped a call and I had to unthread, but I did that right. Like I had to go back to that beginning, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you unstitch it in the same order that you stitch it. So you unstitch it, you know, one color, then the other color, one color, then the other color.
I need
And Kim was illustrating a point that where most people are going to make their mistake when doing a double fan doubled is to skip a hole.
Yeah. I did that for the benefit.
Yeah, yes. Well, we appreciate that. It was a learning example. One reason why this Scotch stitch border is helpful is because it is a parameter, it's a boundary for the double fan doubled. You can still skip a hole, but that way your edges won't be off, because if you were just doing this without the boundary around it, you could get them off a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen.
That's exactly how I noticed it. So
Yeah.
Right. I'm just going to confuse people, so I'm putting that toothpick back in.
Okay.
I'm toughing it out. Toughen it out. I can do this.
Okay. Yes, you can, Gary.
I've done it several times. I can do it this time. All right.
That's right.
There we go. So then I came up in the corner here, and I went around, I went over, and now back under, like that. So now I have my light on the left and right, and my dark on the top and bottom. And I just went down at 8. And so the next time that I'm going to come up is...
With the purple, with the lavender, is one above.
Right. So you don't even need the chart. This is like Debbie was saying, you don't even need the chart, because you're going to always come down the side. You're always going to come down the side. So it's just the next hole up.
Yes.
On the left and right for the light, and the next hole in on the dark, on top and bottom.
Yes.
So you don't need the chart anymore. Once you get established, you just keep going with the same flow. Does that answer questions? Let's see. Is the center going to be tight enough when the toothpick is removed?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Could you use a finger instead of the toothpick? Too fat. Probably get in the way, and you're going to need both your hands anyway.
Yeah. I find it easier to do this if I am stitching with my work in a frame.
So the thing to remember, if I got this right, Debbie, the thing to remember is that all of your light colored action happens on the left and right, and all your dark action happens on the top and bottom.
Exactly.
And if you get out of whack with that, then something went wrong.
Yeah. You know, sometimes people try, okay, see, I split my braid, so it wasn't lying the way I wanted it to, so I'm going to pull that out.
Okay, I'm going to go back to you.
I did that too one time.
Yeah. Well, this braid is so loose that it's really easy to do that. And if somebody is wanting to try the double fan doubled, but maybe not necessarily in the project itself, get some pearl cotton and work it out with pearl cotton. Now, one thing I do with my braid, I don't know if y'all be able to see this, is I put some twist back in it. I just hold it above the canvas and do some twisting. And then when I'm sliding the needle, make sure I get under this right, I do like this a little bit. because if I'm caught on anything, my needle won't slide like that. Let's see if I corrected my little error that I made. Looks like I did.
Glenda doesn't understand what you do on the back side of the canvas. You don't do anything, Glenda. I was just describing where the thread goes, because the natural inclination is that you're going to be going across that space, but as you do this, you'll discover when you're all done that you just have a whole bunch of thread on all four sides. There's really nothing in the middle. And that's one of the shocking things when you first do one of these things, is when you get done, you'll flip it over to anchor it, and you'll realize there's no place to anchor the thing. So that's why you end up doing a pin stitch to end it.
Yeah, and you know, I'll demonstrate how to do a pin stitch from the front to end this when I get my double fan double stitched.
Okay, and then Shelley, yes, we'll go back to me in a second. Judy, when you are going under and over, do you do that in the color as a group, or go
Yes.
over under each strand?
No, you go under the whole group. It's a whole group.
Yeah, you treat each color as its own body of
Yes.
and that gets easier to see as you go along, because you build up more threads. And
it actually is a lot easier to slide the needle under as you go along, because you begin to see some separation here at the center, and your needle slides more easily. I was also going to say, if you're used to working with a petite needle, you need a regular length needle, because the petite needle will be so short that it's more clumsy and awkward to slide the needle through. And I'm so accustomed to doing this that I slide over, under, all in one motion. But it's fine to go over, under, pull the needle through, and then over, under, and pull the needle through. You don't have to do it all in one motion.
okay, yeah, I can see that Debbie's work is blurry. We're going to have to, for the next time, we'll get that straightened out. So people are saying,
Yeah.
can they go back to me?
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So we're going to go back. Go ahead, Kim.
One thing I noticed, like when I'm doing the over under, a couple times I've tried to do it the wrong way. Like I've tried to go under over, and I've noticed that it's harder, and that's what made me stop and realize I was doing the wrong thing. So your point about that it's getting easier because the thread's kind of raising itself up as you go through that motion
Yeah.
is a good indicator, I think, of whether or not you're doing it right or wrong too. Because I've caught myself several times trying to do it the reverse motion, and it just didn't go easy. And I backed up and realized I was doing it wrong.
Yeah. And that also highlights that the motion is the same no matter where you begin. Okay? It's always over, under, over, under. If I start here, it's over, under, over, under. If I start here, over, under, over, under. Here, I go over, under, And if I start here, I go over, under, over, under. It's always the same. It doesn't matter where you start. And you're always moving around this way, no matter where you start. You're always moving this way.
Okay, and I didn't have you on camera, so.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah. All right. So I went over and then under, and now I'm coming up here on this side. Trying not to get my hands in the way. Like that, and I'm going over, and now I have 2 strands of the dark on that I've stitched here, 2 strands. So I'm going underneath both of those strands.
Yes.
And coming around, and here's what Debbie was talking about, is just go over and under, and then go right to the hole that you're going to do, and pull it through, and just do it all in one motion. And then now I have 2, let me get my thing. Now I have 2 strands of dark here and here, 2 strands of dark here and here, 2 here from when I started, and 2 here. And I've already snagged up this thread, so I'll just trash it after I get done here. But so there's 2 here. So now I've got two strands of each, and then our dark purple always goes along on the back side. Always goes along the top and bottom of the scotch stitch. And so now I'm going to just go over here, and this is where I'm going to start. My next run is in this 3rd hole right here. So I'm going to come up here and then park the thread. And then let me just flip this over, and so people can see. Here's what's happening on the back side. If you ignore my fuzzy things here, is you see that the dark purple will all of it will run across the top and the bottom, and the light all of it will run across the sides. There will be nothing in the middle except these 2 carries from my pin stitch is all that will be in the middle. This whole thing will be open when you get done. And if you flip it over at any time and you see any threads going across this center, something has gone wrong. Because when you get done, you should have just a rope of thread all the way around the outside. So if you're doing this for the first time, that's a signal that things have gone wrong, is if you cross that space at all. Okay. So is that helping? Let's see. I think Debbie did the over differently under the alt color. Maybe I did it wrong. Huh. Did I miss the first over-under on the last dark purple? Ooh, might have.
Yeah, if you can see what Kim is working
Yeah,
on,
we can go to
that's
Kim.
that's exactly how it needs to look.
Let's see, where's Kim here?
I have taken it out a few times. You know.
Well, and that's par for the course. And I frequently will have students in class that will successfully execute the double fan doubled. They finally get the rhythm of it toward the end of the first time they attempting it. And then they decide that they could do better. So they take it out and they do better.
Oh, this is really my first one. I was going to try to practice it and I ran out of time, but
Well, you're doing great. It looks
Yeah.
fabulous.
I've made some mistakes, but they've all been recoverable. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can always recover from any mistake.
And Karen, you're right. Yep, I have a mistake. I skipped a hole. You're right. So this is, I've done double fan doubled, but it's been a while. So yeah, I'm as much a rookie as everybody else. But yes, I clearly skipped a space each time and have too much of a gap. So I'm going to have to tear it out and do it over. But that's
exactly what I did earlier. So
yeah. Yeah, you got to make sure you stay right.
Easy mistake. It's an easy mistake to make, especially with something, a thread like silk lame braid, because it's somewhat fat and it obscures the hole. And you really have to kind of push your threads aside so you can get a clear vision of the hole.
Right.
I need a manicure. I keep snagging on my thread.
The trouble with these kinds of descriptions and showing these is the stitch is really quite a bit easier than it seems.
Yes.
Yeah, I got.
Yeah, well, see, that would have been a good place for me to come up in the wrong hole.
Yeah,
from where I'm sitting, it was hard to see that hole.
Yeah, it really does cover up the next hole, and you don't see it, and then I see I did that each time. Get my act back together.
And, for people that might find it challenging to slide the needle, if you will slide it at the edge close to the scotch stitch, it's a little bit easier until you get a lot of separation at the center, and then it's easier to just go through the center because the threads kind of stand apart from each other a little bit as you get more thread built up around the center.
Yep. See, I really need that post in there till you get 3 or 4. I spend a lot of time fiddling to keep that centered.
Next time, Gary, I'll send you the match to my earring.
Oh, that'll warm my heart right there, Kim. Thanks.
You should borrow one from Marga.
Yeah. I went down in the wrong place. This is the second time I've actually done what I just did. I went down in the wrong place, and it's such a nice, pretty flow. Sometimes I get lost in it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I have to think about where the needle should actually end up for the next stitch, and that helps me keep in the right spot. Like, I know that to start the next stitch, I'm always going to be down here on the dark purple, and to start the next stitch, I'm always going to be up here on the light purple. Yes. And if I look like I'm going to end somewhere else, I know I've done something wrong. You know, that's...
This is a stitch that does have a very logical flow to it. And Jean Hilton is the one that developed the stitch. And she had a very logical approach to stitching, a very mathematical approach.
Well, it's very beautiful, and I love it with these silk lame.
Yeah, it's pretty.
That shit's gorgeous. Somebody asked me to do a fall design, and I just couldn't gather all the threads quick enough. But I'm going to try to get that together and do that in the background. because my new friend wanted to do it, and I want to do it too. And it's so pretty. I do have to use hands to.
What's that?
I do have to use my other hand to find the hole.
Well, I do too.
Let's see what other questions. Kim is going over color 1, under color 2, over color 2, under color 1.
Yes.
Can Kim talk through what she is doing?
Yeah, okay. I can do that. All right, so right now I'm getting ready to just park this needle to get it to the next beginning spot. So I'm going to stay on the same side and just bring that needle up and park it somewhere out here. And then I'm going to come back to my other one, and you might hear me talk through some mistakes, so it'll be fun.
That's
And so
okay.
I'm going to go, so I'm starting right here, and I'm going to go over the color right next to me and under the next color. And then I'm going over the next color and under. And it's a very easy over under once you get a few threads in there. And that's how I knew I was wrong sometimes, because it felt hard. And then I'm going to go down into the canvas, and I'm just coming across in a straight row. And most of the time, because this is such a beautiful flowing design, my eyes get a little bit lost, and I forget where I am. And so I count. I've been counting the number of finished threads across the top and the bottom just to make sure I'm where I am at the stitch. And so again, I'm coming up here at the next open hole. I'm trying to be careful. I do get the next open hole, and I'm going over, and it's a clockwise motion. On this one, it's a clockwise motion. So I'm always going to, the same way that the clock runs. So I'm going over and under, and then over and under. And you can see from where I'm sitting, sometimes it's easier to slide up underneath the center because there's more room under there. And then sometimes it's easier to start over near the edge. And so I'm just doing that. And then I'm going to sink that down into the next open hole, making sure it's the next open hole. And then this thread comes along that same side, and it comes up to be parked. And I'm not looking at the chart anymore. I haven't looked at the chart in a little while. I'm just trying to be careful to not skip a hole and to not pierce the thread, because I've pierced a couple threads. So that was like one little complete rotation there. And now I'll go through and I'll count to make sure that I'm not wrong anywhere.
And yeah, you'll be able to tell if you have pierced the thread because it won't lay next to the other threads the way that it needs to.
Yeah. And that's what happened to me. And this is a beautiful silk. And I actually kind of snagged a little piece of the glitter that's in there when I was doing that. But as I kept going, I kind of pushed it under and tucked it under here, and you can't see it now, and it looks fine.
Yeah, I do the same thing. And you can also, when the stitch is all completed, if you've got like a little stray piece of metallic sticking up, you can very carefully snip that off.
Yeah.
Without having to take everything out. I know Gary's having a heart attack because he would take it out.
No, actually, I got one right here, and it's not coming out. It's getting snipped. Buried or snipped.
Okay.
I am sucking it up. It's getting buried or snipped, one or the other.
And you can see I did not start with a pin stitch, and I regret that now. I should have started with a pin stitch, but I'll be able to bury these underneath very carefully underneath my scotch stitches, but I'll have to be really careful not to disturb them too much. But I wish I had started with a pin stitch like Debbie showed in the beginning, but I didn't. So I would definitely encourage you to do that, given how the stitch is playing out. Be a much better start. Okay, so I'm going over and under again. And then you see it almost wants to go over on its own and then under. So no big deal. And then I'm just going to find the next hole. From where I sit, it's hard to see, so I'm trying to make sure it's the next hole. And then I travel along the same side and come up in the next hole above me. Yeah. And then then it's this way, over, under, over, under. See, I get lost if I stop for a minute.
Well, I always talk to myself when I'm doing this if I forget where I was. I'm going, okay, I went over that one, under that one, over that one.
And then this thread comes up to get parked and to wait for its next turn.
Margaret, you'd be just fine at this.
Okay, so this one goes over, under, And, you know, you can push on the canvas and pop it up above those threads. I'm trying not to do that too much, so I don't want the canvas to move much, but, and then over, under again up here.
Yeah, I push underneath if I'm having trouble. I push underneath the canvas. You know, of course, I have my canvas extremely tight, just because it's easier to stitch when it's that tight, but it makes it more difficult for some of these kinds of stitches.
Okay, and then I'm going to go over, under. And sometimes I've been able to get it in one motion, but I'm trying to be real careful not to pierce. And then over, under.
Yeah, and you know, I do better in some directions than I do in other directions with it being all in one motion. And so I don't worry about it. As long as I get it over and under right, I don't care.
Did you see what I did there? I went in the wrong hole again. That's the third time I've done that. There's something about that hole, and it's always on this back side that I'm doing it.
Okay, well, Kim, I can see what you're doing, and you see how when you have gone over and under and over and under and you're ready to end that stitch, can you see how the thread is laying? It's laying over the hole you need to go to.
Yeah. It's confusing me, isn't it? Okay. So it goes down here.
Yes.
And it comes back up here to get parked.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain this very well, but when you look at the scotch stitches where you bring your needle up, the relationship of where your needle comes up on all four sides and where it goes down on all four sides, it's going to go in the same place of the scotch stitch. So for instance, if you come up in the hole between two scotch stitches, it's going to come up in the hole between two between two scotch stitches, and it's going to end in the hole between two scotch stitches. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, yeah.
And so, you know, if you're, okay, this one didn't end in the same place that one did, you might have skipped a hole and the other common thing is to put two things in the same hole.
Yeah. I really, really like this stitch. I like this thread too. I think that's one of the beauties of needlepoint, counted needlepoint especially, is all the different threads you end up using. I love it. It's like a, for me.
Let's see. Judy says, do the purple/lavender threads share the same hole as the scotch stitches or next? No, they share the same holes as the scotch stitches.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why it's so helpful to have the box of scotch stitches in, because then you know that you know where to put the needle each time, right next to right in the same hole.
I'm ready to end with mine with a pin stitch.
All right, let me switch to you then. Okay.
Okay, so this is what it should look like. And you'll see that the center is very compact. The threads lay next to each other on all four sides, and you can clearly see went over here, under here, over here, under here. You can clearly see that all the way around. So now I'm going to end with a pin stitch.
I'm sorry, folks. I can't zoom in any closer or improve the focus for Debbie. So, yeah, sorry.
I'll do the best I can, and Kim will be able to show you a little bit better when she's ready to end with a pin stitch. So I'm just going to take my fingernail and separate like this, and I can see some blank canvas. I'm going to go 2 times over the same canvas thread. You only need to go twice at the end of a pin stitch because there's not going to be any tension on the threads from now on. Then I'm going to pull this up and putting some tension. I've actually pulled my canvas up and I've got my scissors laying right next to the stitch. Snip. Can't see it.
You had some pretty good tension on that.
Yes, I did. Well, that kind of helps the thread to kind of snap back down into the canvas. Do the same thing over here on this side. Taking care not to split the threads.
Mary, this is this piece, the canvas is 18 by 18.
Okay, all done.
Got it. Nice. Okay. Where's Kim at? Let's see. Let's go to Kim.
Was that a pin stitch?
Hmm?
It was in the shape of a T pin stitch.
Nope, it was twice over the same canvas thread, so 2 times over one thread.
Okay.
I was trying to look and see. Yeah, we're going to use the light purple silk lame braid again, but not the dark purple.
I think watching you, Kim, is really illustrative of how you have to pay attention to make sure that you get in the next hole, especially as you get.
Yeah, because I think I'm off somewhere. I'm not sure. Maybe not. We're going to keep going. Power through. Okay.
I think that you may have done 2 circuits with the light lavender thread and skipped one with, and it's fine. You can do that. In some of Jean Hilton's later books that I was reading, she had gotten to where she would just do a double fan, which is just the one color going from the bottom to the top and then top to the bottom. And she would get all of that done. And then she would do the next double fan and weave through the first one. I am not sure that that's a wonderful approach for someone who's just learning. I think it's better to do it as we're doing it here, because I think that it.
Yeah, I'm off somewhere.
Yeah, you're off somewhere. I can't.
I don't see it either, so we're just going to keep on going.
Yeah,
it'll be okay.
You can fudge it a little bit.
Yeah, we're fixing.
I've had students that wound up with, I went from the left to the right, but I didn't go from the right to the left as many times as I needed to. So then they just go back and do it. And it still looks okay. It's not the best technique, but it's okay.
Yeah. It's probably a good thing you can't see my face, because I think I've got my tongue out and I'm like all twisted up.
Hey, the blank space is getting covered up, so.
Yeah, so don't worry about it. Yeah, it's really interesting to have a class with 24 people all saying over, under, at different points. And I have to remind them, please do that under your breath because you don't want to get your neighbor off.
Yeah. Okay. It gets a little tougher to do the over under when you're getting down to a teeny little space here too.
Yeah, it is. And you have to make sure you don't catch the scotch stitches and everything that's on the canvas.
See, I caught a thread there. I can tell. Do this again.
You can try putting a little more twist in your thread.
Okay.
See if that'll help. And I also have some students have learned, or they have reported, not that they've learned, they've reported that it's easier to poke the eye end through first than the point end, especially when they have, it's really tough.
Yeah, that worked.
Okay.
Okay. I think just maybe right here at the end a little bit because it's okay.
Pretty.
So if I bring it up here, I've got one more to do on the dark purple, right?
No, you're through. There's an empty hole on every side.
And so I've missed one with the light purple.
Did you come up in the middle of 2 scotch stitches?
I did, yeah.
Okay. It looks like going from the right side to the left side.
Here, I've missed something.
That you've okay. So just unstitch. Take that thread to the back.
Okay.
Bring it up on the right side. Your thread carries will be out of place, but nobody's going to look at the back.
Not for long, they won't.
That's why you should always finish everything so they can't look at the back. Only your framer knows for sure.
Like your hair color.
Yeah, I don't even know what my natural hair color is anymore, and I don't really care. So.
Okay.
Okay. It looks like where that needs to go down is on the left side.
Okay. Oh, maybe I just took it down in the wrong side.
Maybe you just took it down in the wrong side.
I've been trying to do that all afternoon, so okay. Okay, so if it goes down there.
Okay, and it looks like you still have one too many empty holes.
Yeah.
Okay, so go over to the right side.
Okay.
And then just do the over-unders and end on the left side, and that should square that away.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So over here, since I want an empty hole, should I come back up in the same hole to fake it?
Do you have, it looks to me like you have an empty hole above the center hole between the 2 scotch stitches.
I do.
Okay.
I do. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, when you start getting all those thread carries on the back, it can be difficult to find the hole. Okay, now just go over, under, and end on the left side and see if that evens out the number of holes that you have. And leave one hole empty in the middle. Did that work?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Victory.
Thank you very much. That's
Okay.
pretty. Even with an error buried in there somewhere, it's beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
And it's a somewhat forgiving stitch because, if you make a little mistake like that, you can fix that without having to pull the whole thing out. And, if you get to looking at it later and figure out, I think probably what happened was you just skipped going from the right side to the left side one time.
Okay.
Okay, now let's do a pin stitch to end. So which one do you want to do first? You
I'll
want to
do
do
the
the light?
because that's
Okay,
what I have.
because you got the light. Okay, so separate until you see a little piece of an empty blank canvas, but there's good.
Okay.
Go 2 times over the same canvas thread. And the reason why you always do this from the front is so you don't catch the threads.
Okay.
And now come up one more time in the same hole where you've been coming up.
Okay.
And pull that up and put some tension on the canvas so that the canvas is actually pulled up.
Okay.
Okay, and now take your scissors, hold your scissors as flat to the canvas as you can and snip that off.
Okay.
Ta-da!
Yay, that was not bad.
No, it's not bad at all. And if you're really nervous and concerned about snipping off from the front, you can always take the canvas back to the back, the needle back to the back and snip it from the back. And then just do the same thing with the dark purple.
Okay.
I see you're using your Vaseline
Yep.
tool.
I don't have any nails. I don't have any fingernails.
Well, and mine are rough enough that I'm supposed to get a manicure tomorrow, and I could really tell working with those silk lame braids. Gary's going, whatever.
Well, I had a manicure yesterday, so I don't have the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, but did you have a pedicure too? So
I've never had either.
Aw.
Okay.
Pull up so that there's a lot of tension on that thread so that when you snip it, then it just kind of sinks back down without you having to do any manipulation of it. There you go. And
That's
then you can kind of smoosh the threads back over the place.
I love it. It's my first one. Perfect.
Well, you did a beautiful job.
Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions, Gary? Or?
No, I don't see any more. It looks like everybody got it, or at least got questions, or said, or a couple of them said, I'm going to go back and watch it when I can stop the video. So that's understandable.
There you go. And that's perfectly fine. And I'm glad that it's recorded because when I teach classes, I give all of my students videos for the stitches that we do. And they go back and watch them over and over and over again as many times as they need to.
Now, Kim, help me with the earring technique. Did you put a clasp on the back of that?
I did. I just took a regular little earring and I put it through the center and then I put the clasp on the back and I left enough room for it, basically to wrap the threads around it. And then when I was done, or when I got
on top of the canvas, not underneath.
On top. Yeah, it was on top and the clasp was on the back. And then when I, got several different rounds in there, I took it out. But I left mine in till probably the 4th thread, I'd say.
Okay.
Till it got in the way, kind of.
Right.
Till I wanted to see. And when I wanted to see, then I took it out.
Yeah. Because I'm liking that idea. I'm going to have to give that a try because it gives a smaller post than, yeah, okay.
And it stayed in there. It stayed in there as I was wrapping around it, which I thought was fantastic. I mean, it was one of our people that gave that idea when we were talking about it in a live show. And I was like, oh yeah, I actually did not have an earring with me and went back home to get one today. I went back for it. I was like, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah. So an earring would work. I find that a lot of times a counting pin won't stay in the hole properly. And so, because the post on the counting pin is too skinny, but a size 18 needle, if you have one, or a size 22, or, even one of those big plastic needles that children use to learn how to stitch with, if you have one of those laying around, that'll work too. It just needs to stay in the canvas long enough for you to get your center established and work on your tension, and then you can pull it out. And even if there's a hole, it's not going to show because the center completely covers it.
Right. Yeah, I just pulled all mine out. Going back and forth, I just kept messing up. So I'm gonna. I couldn't cover the instructions and flip the cameras and stuff. So I'll just do mine in the peace and quiet of my corner. But yeah,
Yes.
so it looks like people are indicating that they at least are understanding it or see how it gets done. So that's the goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah. And you get 4 more shots at it in this piece. So
Oh, there's four
No,
more.
those are chilling hollow stitches. Those aren't double fan doubles.
the ones up in the corners are not?
No, they look like chili hollow.
Oh, all right.
Let me look at the instructions. In a
I
chili
thought
hollow,
those were
I think this is the only one. I think this is the only one.
well, that'll
yeah,
be
we've got
fun.
walnuttos, and let me look real quick.
I thought those I just looked. I didn't read the
Yeah,
instructions.
those are chili hollow stitches.
Oh, good.
And a chili hollow stitch is quite a bit easier than a double fan double because you only have to weave under one thing on each side. And it has appearance similar to a double fan double, but it has a hole in the middle of it. What page was that on? I saw it. Look at the page number real quick. Yeah, that starts
44,
on page,
44, 45, 43, 42,
Yeah.
41, 40, 40.
Yeah. And this is also bounded by a border stitch when you get to that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, the chili hollow stitch starts on page 40.
Well, that'll just be a piece of cake. Look at that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's relatively simple.
So you get 1 double fan double, and then that's it. Okay.
And 4 walnuttos and Amadeus stitches. And when I designed this piece, I designed it with some of my favorite stitches.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you,
Well-
we're doing a show on walnuttos because that is one that I struggle with every time. I fight with
Okay.
that thing every time. So there'll definitely be a
well,
show for
I
that.
work on the focus on my
Yeah.
camera so we can see if we can get it closer.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get them, the walnuttos, but every time I fight with them. So yeah, for sure. Do you have any tips for the next stitches and where to do the pin stitch on it?
Oh, on the crescents, yes. Okay, so here's a general rule of thumb when you're looking for where to do a pin stitch. Look at the finished diagram of the stitch and see where the bulk of the threads are crossing or cover the area. And that's where you want to put your pin stitch. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So the next stitches in this piece are layered crescents that go around the scotch stitch. And I don't recommend putting a pin stitch at the beginning of a stitch or at the end of a stitch because it's really easy to confuse where have I stitched in this hole yet or not. And so I always try to put them outside the channel that we're stitching, and I don't think that it's going to be possible to do with this, but yeah, just do a little, you can do pin stitches and do the same thing to end.
Well, those crescents, you'll have no trouble hiding a pin stitch. They're layered there's 5 of them, right?
Yeah, there's 5 of them. And
Yeah.
you could even, because there's 5 of them in a layer like that, you could even put it outside of the
Right.
crescent that you're working on because it's going to be covered up by the next crescent.
Yeah, that's exactly what was going through my mind is just make it outside because you're going to cover with the next layer. And
And you can even go a little bit further away because then the next layer after that are a bunch of waffle stitches. And they're going to cover the canvas pretty well. So you could do a pin stitch even out where the waffle stitches are going to cover it.
Yep.
And, you know, away knots are still really good to use. I was using away knots on my scotch stitches. I put the away knot where I stitched toward it.
Here, I'm going to put us all back on camera here.
Okay.
Well, not Kim, but
Okay, well, let me get mine back on. Okay.
there we go.
So with my scotch stitches, when I did those, I did an away knot and I stitched toward it. Then when I came to the knot, I clipped it off because the stitches that I had made covered up my tail on the back and secured it. And so since I was using 3 strands instead of an even number of strands, I couldn't do a loop start. Sorry, Barry.
Yeah.
So, I like loop starts too, and I do loop starts as well. But, the key with the loop start is don't make it over the length of the entire stitch. Do it over a single canvas thread.
Right.
Because you can't control the tension on it if you make it over too long an area. So, yeah.
Yep.
But, away knots, if you want to use away knots, and I know as cross stitchers, we have a tendency to want to just weave through on the back. And you can still do that, but when you look at stitches like a double fan doubled or a walnutto, there's not enough on the back to give you a good place to weave through. Or a waffle stitch, there's not enough on the back for a waffle stitch. So learning to do a pin stitch to anchor with is a really useful tool that comes in handy for counted canvas work.
Yeah, that's this whole piece as I went through the instructions. The waffle, all those stitches, I remember the initial experience each time. I flipped the canvas over to anchor the thread, and there's no place to anchor.
No place.
And so I remember with each of those stitches, the first time I did it, it's like, all right, you got to find a different way to start and end because the usual weave under over is just simply not going to work. So yeah, that was when I really started to look at the pin stitch because somehow we got to get a good anchor with these things. And it's, you end up just having to do that just to make it work. Yep. Let's see, any other questions? Nope, I think we got it. All right, folks, I think we'll end here. I hope that helped everyone. And as you know, plenty of help. Debbie's email's there. Write to me, write to Kim. And if we've enticed anyone in this show to start this thing, give Kim a call. She'll get a kit out to you. She has them.
Yeah, we do.
And you're not behind.
I realize I said that, and then Kim goes, well, actually, we don't. But no, she does.
No, we do.
She has them. So, so join us. Obviously, this is not going to be over with in 3 weeks. So plenty of time to catch up and move on. And FT Royal Garden is the hashtag on Instagram, FT Royal Garden. And if you use that, if you search for that, you'll see Jessica Grimm over in Bavaria is smoking through this thing. She's starting to scare me. But you can, her pictures will show the progress quite nicely as she's worked her way through it. She probably will be done next week at the rate she's going, but the rest of us humans will do it.
And see, that's one thing about counted canvas. This canvas is huge. The finished design size is 12 by 12, and there's a lot of stitching on it. But when you look at stitches like a double fan doubled, it covers up a lot of canvas with a single stitch. It's not like covering the same amount of canvas with a cross stitch.
Right. And
so it does go really fast, and it's designed so that you can do little bits of it at a time and not have to sit down and, you could, in one stitching session, accomplish a whole area.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll end here. That's good. Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
That was fun. And check out today's podcast. Anna Scott, really talented embroiderer. So check that out. And then we'll be back Wednesday with a podcast and a live show. Beth and I are going to stitch. I'll be working on this. I better make some progress. Can I ask about the weaving stitch? Oh, Jessica Grimm, speaking of the devil, right there. She's not going to be done in 2 weeks. She will. She lies. Can she ask about the weaving stitch? Well, Jessica, we've ended the show, but for you, yes.
What would she like?
I don't know. What's the question, Jessica?
Is it the weaving through the scotch stitches, or is it the weaving that's going under the Amadeus, the crescent stitches?
Waiting for her to ask that question. I'm sure she's typing rapidly, and then she's under pressure, so she made 2 errors and had to delete it all and start again. And now she's getting more nervous.
Well, Jessica has been emailing me with some questions and things, and I try to answer as quickly as I can. I will be traveling next week, and so I won't be sitting on top of my computer like I usually am, but I will answer as quickly as I can.
Okay, here we go. Is there an easy way to make them under the crescents?
Well, you do the weaving first.
Okay.
I'm looking at the...
I'm not following what she's saying.
Yeah. So
I have trouble to make them look nice, but it looks rather messy.
okay, is she talking about?
Here, I'm gonna go full screen for you. Whoops, maybe I'm not. Hang on, Debbie, hang on.
Okay.
Bear with me. There we go. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to get some light on this. So there's weaving under these stitches here. Okay. And that's done with, looks like it's done with floss and Krynic. And I think that in the instructions you do that part first. And then
Yes,
the
Debbie,
crescent around it.
she's saying yes, but the weaving is rather troublesome with this thread. I keep picking up fibers.
Yeah. Try going with the eye first instead of the point and see if that helps. Another thing that you can do, the whole purpose of this weaving was to put a different color under these crescents that are there. So there's not the same color as the canvas. And so if you wanted to, instead of doing the weaving, you could do all of the stitches one way and then just lay the other stitches on top of them. And you would have somewhat the same effect, but you wouldn't have all the troublesome, the weaving. The weaving is tough. And, you know, I have trouble with the weaving too. I just have to be patient. I loosen the canvas so that the canvas isn't quite as tight, so I can push up from underneath. I also will take the point of my needle, and let me see if I can get to that point real quickly here in the book. Oh, there it is. Okay, so see here in my book. So when I'm doing the weaving, you start at one end and you push with your needle what you've woven, and then weave the next line, push with your needle to smoosh it up against the next part, do your weaving, push it up against. If you wait, it'll get really wavy if you don't keep it mushed up against the previous weaving. Does that make any sense at all?
Yes, well, it does to me. We'll see if Jessica thinks so.
Okay. And, you know, you always have the option of not doing it. I have people that do my designs and they change the colors, they change the elements, they change and do different things, and that's fine with me. I am not one of those designers that insists that if you're going to do one of my projects, you must do it exactly the way I did it. I like seeing what other people do.
Yep. Jessica, did that help you? It does. Thanks a lot. So success there.
Okay.
All right. We got her over
Okay,
the hump.
good.
Yep. Okay. Any other questions? Want to get them all in today. If you have questions, we want to get them in. Oh, Jessica's might do a different stitch. Okay.
And that's me. That's fine with me. The important thing was just to get that color.
She's just going to couch some gold down. It'll be easier.
That'll be fine. That'll work.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I think we're going to call it then, folks. Thanks. Talk to you Wednesday night, and all kinds of resources. If you have any questions at all about this, fire them at one of us. We will get you an answer one way or another. Don't get frustrated. It will work out. All right. Yay. Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, Kim. All right. We're out.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.